Comics in 39.
Whiz Comics.
But in, no, that's the wrong Captain Marvel. Let's see when his first book was.
Ready to go down?
Yeah, we're already live.
Oh, sorry.
I don't care.
That's all right.
Ed just did the same thing. He just went.
Yeah.
Look at the pregnant cats. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, that.
Oh, they're so.
The one you brought in.
No, one of the outside ones. The one that had the 4 kittens last year. We have been trying to get them in. We have a local in Lawrence shelter that does a kind of a catch and release.
Mm-hmm.
Bring in a stray cat and they'll neuter it, and then you just let it
Fix
go
it and put it back out.
Yeah, and we've managed to do that. We had 2 females and a male that we got, or no, 2 males and a female that we got fixed.
2 males, 2 females.
Socks and 2 females. So 4 cats basically.
2 of each. Okay.
Yeah, but we were not able to get all of them in due to monetary restrictions
and we couldn't
and whatnot. And
she didn't let us.
Yeah, they're some of them outdoor. We were going to have to get one of those live traps that the shelter was going to provide us, but we just didn't happen. And now, of course, the 2 females that we were not able to take in are both appear to be pregnant. So
one of her babies.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, boys, have a good time.
All right, so we are live. If anybody's watching later, or if you've joined us live, hello. If you have joined us live, feel free to leave comments there on the YouTube chat area so that we can respond. That is, if I see it, because we had that problem last time that you were seeing comments long before I was.
It's like Kansas internet.
Yeah, pretty much. Stupid Kansas. All right, well, you want to go ahead and get started with this first episode?
Yes, sir. I'm good to go.
Okay. What kind of phone is that?
I don't know. It's a smartphone.
You saw the 3 lenses. I didn't know if that was a Pixel or a Samsung or.
No, it's a Samsung.
Or Samsung. Cool.
Yeah, with the 3.
Yeah.
Got a fancy shock-proof, make you think you can't drop it, but it really doesn't matter cover on it.
Right. Yeah. Yep. It's like the protective screens. It's good to have them because eventually you'll end up cracking that protective screen.
Right.
But if you're anything like me, then you'll keep that protective screen on for like months and months and months before you replace it.
Longer than you should. Yeah.
So what's the point after that? So
I will say the only time I've ever broken a screen on any of my smartphones is when I got pissed and slammed it on a table face down.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Oh, all of it. It was just,
It's gone. It's done.
I did it well. Yeah.
Stick a fork in that phone. All right. You recording?
No, but I am now.
Cool. Let's do this sucker. All right. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 48, The Strongarm Assaults. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steeven. And 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore. Howdy, Ed.
Howdy.
How's things?
Well, they're going along. It's first. Is this? Yeah, I guess this is the first actual day of spring. So, regardless of where in North America you live, so it is for you and me and Chris Parton.
Chris Parton has joined us live. That kind of reminds me, I think every once in a while we need to remind folks about this, folks who may only listen to the show and never watch us live or watch the videos. We do live stream as we're recording. And so throughout episodes, you may hear Ed or I. Seems like we're talking to somebody who's not there, but we're responding to comments that are being left from our live, not studio audience.
Which, if you are listening live, it's on YouTube. Oh, no, wait, you already know that.
That's right. That's right. That's there was a really good episode. Well, most of the episodes of WKRP in Cincinnati was good. But do you remember the one with the tornado? That was it. The tornado? No, I can't remember if it was the tornado or if it was the episode with the bomb that blew up the transmitter. But regardless, something they couldn't transmit anymore. I'm pretty sure it was the bomb at the transmitter.
Okay.
But Bailey was on the phone in Jennifer's desk and she's like, "No, ma'am, I'm sorry, but we're off the air." And then she goes, "How are we supposed to announce that we're off the air if we're off the air?" And I always enjoyed that line.
Yep. My two favorite episodes, the Thanksgiving turkey episode, of course, and the Johnny Fever getting drunk, becoming a better DJ episode.
His reaction time is better faster the more drunk he gets. Yeah, that's a good episode.
Yeah, those are my two favorite episodes.
Yeah. Do you have any did you schedule or did you prepare any banter?
Well, I did just want to bring up, I spend most of my social media time on Twitter. And I'm part of a group. I don't want to name the group in case anybody listens that is in the group. I don't want to directly insult them. But it is a group of fellow bloggers and podcasters of like, supposedly, ilk as we are, comic book based. And today, I had, and I wasn't necessarily in the best of moods today anyways, but reading through, I had enough of a particular theme of discussion, and I'll read what I tweeted, and it'll be pretty much self-explanatory.
Okay.
I tweeted, "I'll keep to my paper heroes, thanks. I watch movies and TVs, but my heart is in comics. Nothing is better than what I can do in my head in between the pages. John Byrne is my favorite Superman. Neil Adams is my favorite Batman, and George Perez is my favorite Wonder Woman. Now get off my lawn." So the expression of distaste for choices movie studios makes, just to put it as fairly as I can, it was being thrown about rather unpopularly, and I was just like, "Dog, look, I just,
the one whenever anybody starts complaining about, I don't know why they hired, cast this person in this role and blah blah blah." I always remind folks back in 88, 89 when it was announced that Michael Keaton was going to play Batman.
Who?
And everybody, Beetlejuice, the guy from Mr. Mom is going to be
Mr.
Batman.
Mom.
Everybody was angry.
Yeah.
And ever since then, every time they cast a new person as Batman, most of the people say, "Oh, they'll never do as good as Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is Batman." That's, and it's, you didn't think so back in 89.
Right. That's not what you said then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anytime they cast anybody, because I was really, Michael Keaton, really? Because it didn't make any sense to me.
It was a very interesting choice.
But ever since then, I try not to question it because most of the time it's good.
Well, first of all, we have come to you have to have come to acknowledge by this point that anything on TV or movies is a completely separate world than what you get on the paper.
Yes.
So trying to say any type of comparison with the actual source material just
Yeah.
falls flat because
Yep.
by now it is blatantly obvious that is not what they do. They
Yeah.
use it maybe for a jumping off point, and that's all they use it for.
Yep.
Now, maybe the actors or actresses, they might spend more time than the
Yeah.
screenwriters or the directors to get the character, because there's you have more flexibility, I think, with trying to nail a particular character from the comic book
Yeah.
than you do the storyline and the setting and all the characters
Yep.
around and all that stuff. So I will hand it to those actors or actresses that do take the time, and they're told, well, loosely the playwright based this on the X and X storyline that was in the X book, and they'll read it.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, good on you.
Yep.
You're trying to do what comic book fans have been wanting, even though you won't be successful because the director and the material you have to work
Yeah.
with aren't going to allow
Yeah.
you to do it.
Yep.
But you're making that effort. So okay.
Yeah, I
good.
always enjoy seeing pictures online of an actor or an actress in a comic book store buying a
man.
bunch of back issues of the character they're going to be playing in a couple of weeks. I always like that.
Yeah. When after they get announced, they're caught at Midtown Comics and they have a big stack of trades.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
okay,
But
that's
the
part of
thing
your
is,
studying. You've got the script in the car, and now here's your trades. It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
the people who complain about stuff like that are probably the same people that complain anytime anything happens in the comic that they don't like. That's not my
Yeah.
Superman. Superman would never do that. And it's like, well, but he just did. So
He does
Yeah.
now. So
he does now, right?
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Superman, the bit of banter I jotted down for tonight, for this episode, the Superman #1 hit the DC app today, so I was able to give it a read.
Okay.
Really enjoyed it.
I have talking about that for the 3rd episode, as a matter of fact.
All right, so let's
I'll add to your conversation here in a couple.
Well, let me switch then to my 3rd episode banter that I have written down.
Okay.
Have you watched Ted Lasso?
No.
Oh, you should. It is so good. The 3rd season just launched. I've been going back and watching the old ones. Yeah, it's a great show.
Is that the one about the dude that's a baseball coach?
He's a football coach from Kansas.
Football,
who has been hired to coach a soccer team in England.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, played by Jason Sudeikis, who is from Kansas.
All right.
So, and he's such the character is just like super positive and super optimistic, and it can be a very just positive, fun, optimistic kind of show. Chris Parton loves Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
It's just one of those shows, though, that you watch the 1st episode and you're like, oh, that's pretty good. 2nd episode, yeah, that's good too. By the 4th episode, though, you realize how special the show is, because they've introduced all the characters. They've kind of let you know, here's who these characters are. Doug S. also loves Ted Lasso. They let you know, here's who these characters are in kind of a one-dimensional way. Like, here's the boss, and
right.
she's cranky. Here's this guy, and he's stupid, and he's very egotistical. But as the show goes on, they just get deeper and deep. It's just great. It's just such a great show. The characters are very well thought out and very well performed. And
cool.
Yeah, Apple TV, dude. It's only like $4.99 a month or something.
Apple TV. I don't think we have that one. We might. I'll have to look and see.
That's what Ted Lasso's on. Now, here's what I would say. Wait till season 3 is done. Then just get a month of Apple TV and watch all 3 seasons.
And binge it all.
Yeah. Because they're only, I don't know, 10, 12 episodes a season, 30-minute long episodes.
Okay.
But they're really good.
Well, cool.
So we
add that
have
to my list.
Yeah. Good stuff. We have Doug S, we have Chris Parton, and we have Terry Moore joining us live.
All
Welcome.
right.
My daughter just heated up a Totino's party pizza, and it smells so good.
I bet it does.
All right.
Pizza. Sorry. Some
Right.
80s rap.
Did
coming
you
out
have
there.
Did you have one of those local pizza places that stayed open later than the bars so that everybody would, or when you were in your 20s and
Well, I didn't really go to the bars to then check and see if the pizza places were open later. So I honestly can't say. We
All right.
may have.
Yeah.
I know. Let's see. No, I don't know. Come to think of it.
For those in the area listening, Pizza Shuttle, Lawrence, Kansas, still around.
Cool.
Cheap pizza, stayed open past the when the bars would be open. So you'd go to a club, you'd watch a band, you'd go home, and 3 a.m, you'd get some Pizza Shuttle.
So that's what you did. You
Yeah.
played the gig, and then
Well,
went
no.
and got pizza after the gig.
Yeah, sometimes we would. Sometimes we would go see a band. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually, if we weren't playing, we were there to see a band.
So as a band, you went to see bands?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Not always as a group, but one of the band I was in for the longest time, the guitar player was my best friend growing up in high school. So, yeah, we were always doing crap together. Okay. Are we bantered out for this episode?
I think we're good. Yep. More
right.
Next episode, guys. Hang in there.
Yes. Ed and I are not big fans of the small talk, so we schedule and plan out our banter for each episode.
We're trying to keep the energy up. We noticed some things over time, and we're trying to change things up a little bit to even the flow, as it were.
Yeah. All right, so today we're looking at the Strongarm Assaults, which appeared in Action Comics number 28. This was written by Jerry Siegel with pencils and inks by Jack Burnley and letters by Betty Bentley. I actually
his wife.
Oh, very nice.
That was I think Bentley is like her maiden name.
By Chris. Chris is leaving.
What? What you just got here, dog?
I know. Weak sauce is what that's called.
No doubt. That's what they say in Japan. Bentley Burnley or Burnley Bentley. I've seen her name, whichever order. But yeah, she turns out to be his wife, and she's going to be around for several of the art jobs that he does. She will be there with him.
And you had mentioned in one of the previous episodes that you had gotten some information from the Grand Comic database.
Yes.
And so now as I put shows together, I'm using both Mike's Amazing World of Comics and the Grand Comics database. And that's where Betty Bentley came from. That wasn't over on Mike's. So.
Oh, was it not? Okay. Yeah. They have it listed as Betty Burnley Bentley. And then the note down here says Jack Burnley's sister lettered all of his work, starting with this story through September 1942. So this is September 4th. So for the next 2 years.
Wow.
And here, an interesting reference to something I've never heard of. It says, see the comics with an exclamation point, volume 14, number 10, with articles by Betty Burnley, Jack Burnley, and reproducing black and white proofs of 2 images from Action Comics 28. So that must be a fanzine that was out at least when both of them were alive. I don't think there were too many fanzines in 1940 yet, but so this says volume 14. So if you take, say, each year as a volume, this thing, the comics, had been around for a little while.
Yep.
I did a Google search and I couldn't type it in the right way. I'm sure somebody else somewhere has talked about this, but that's such a generic name that even with the exclamation point, I didn't get anything. So
somebody will let us know. Hit us up on Twitter or on the forum.justanotherfanboy.com. The comics! Exclamation point.
Yep.
All right, let me tell you what happened in this story. This synopsis comes from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. Lois and Clark visit the circus to investigate a series of strong arm robberies. The suspect the suspect involved resembles the circus strongman Herculo. They interview the circus owner, Mr. Jenkins, who explains that robberies have occurred in other cities when the circus was in town as well. Herculo claims no knowledge of the robberies as he tries to impress Lois by beating up Clark. Clark decides to place a report in the paper about Herculo as a challenge to Superman. He also marks some money, which is quickly stolen from him by the bandit. Later, Superman shows up at the circus. He and Herculo duel as a show for the audience. Jenkins is impressed and goes to tell the newspapers. He discovers that a clown is the robber because the money Clark marked stained his hands red. The clown attacks Jenkins, who is rescued by... Good Lord, what's wrong with me tonight? The clown attacks Jenkins, who rescue... And it's the last sentence. I'm on the last sentence. The clown attacks Jenkins, who is rescued by Superman, while Herculo knocks out the clown. Ed, what'd you think?
There you go. I think the story was a little bit easier to read than perhaps that was.
Yeah, very much.
I don't know. And for some reason, there in the second paragraph, when you said the bandit, Eastbound and Down started playing in my head. It's sorry.
It's that generation. You can't help.
Nothing to do with the book, but you can ask my wife. 1 out of every 3 sentences will trigger a song lyric in my head, and I'll say something. I'll carry on with the rest of the song, and she's like, "Are you singing?" Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I can't. I can't help it.
Just watch that bandit run.
Right. Yep. I enjoyed this. I liked the setting. I think I liked the. Well, everything is presenting as this is the bad guy, but then right at the end, it's like, oh no, this is the bad guy. You would not have been able to get that from anything in the story. So it was just a switch in the writing. So
Terry says you guys sing often.
Yeah, she does it too.
Yeah.
I usually leave her hanging. I'll just as she figures out what the song is and starts, that's usually as long as I want to sing it. So yeah.
If you've not listened to it, you should check out Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, their cover of Eastbound and Down. They're a punk rock super group that only does covers. They've released like 4 or 5 albums, and they are like a lot of 80s songs. They did a country album. They're great stuff. I will say that I actually figured out who our criminal was.
Really?
Right away. And it's only because typically if somebody is writing a mystery and they want it to be an actual mystery, the general rule is you're introduced to the murderer or whoever in that first chapter. And so you introduce the reader to a bunch of characters in that first chapter, but the rule is you have to introduce the bad guy, because if you don't, if by the end you find out the murderer is somebody that you haven't even met yet in the story, then the writer did not do their job. But there's a moment in this story where when we first meet the clown, it's basically where the strong man is kind of flexing his muscles and trying to impress Lois. And at first, Lois seems to be going for it, which just made me shake my head at Lois.
Yeah, Lois. Yeah.
But she basically says, Superman's stronger than you. And he's, you bring him here and I'll show him. And suddenly this clown just pops into frame and he's like, and I'll referee the match. And I didn't figure it out then, but the next time I saw the clown, I'm like, oh, I bet the clown's the bad guy. Because he's not doing anything else.
Right.
Yeah. He's not doing anything else in the story. Everybody else had something to do, basically, except for the clown. He's just there. So he had to be the bad guy. And I tried to use the same logic in the next story we'll talk about in the next episode, because it's a mystery as well. But I didn't figure that one out. I wasn't.
Oh, yeah. I'm not that smart. Although, in my defense, I will say that mysteries are not the most of the types of literature that I've read. So
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know the tropes and things for mysteries as well as I do, say, high fantasy, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
what I've predominantly read. Well, and
And,
comic books.
yeah. And one of the other things I was thinking about as far as I just the whole time I couldn't help but think it can't be Herculo, because
It's
as I don't want to say the writing at this time is bad, but it's not as sophisticated as the
right,
writing you
right.
get nowadays. So as not sophisticated as the writing was back then, for them to try to introduce a mystery in which the bad guy basically goes out in the costume that that the strong guy
Yeah,
goes in, and always seems to be robbing people in the town that the circus happens to be in. Herculo is stupid, but he's not that stupid.
yeah. It's like, no, that's
So,
too obvious. It
yeah,
can't
yeah,
be. Yeah.
yeah.
So let's see, what else did I write here? Oh, um, and exactly how much did all the tickets for all the orphans cost? That
Right.
Clark just did a pocket maneuver there, and he's like, "Oh, here, let me."
We I think we established a while back that Clark's got some money. He
I I guess so. Yeah.
I know that there was the one story where he had to raise like $1 million, and
Right.
there was another story where he made all that money, the black gold swindle.
Right.
He
The
made
the
he made a
oil
lot of
well
money.
thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm assuming he just invested well when he got that big windfall, and so he's just been
I
sitting
guess
back and enjoying the profits. Either that, or yeah, newspaper reporters get paid bank.
back then. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I was a little disappointed in Lois when she first seems to be kind of into Herculo, because
Yeah.
he's a big mighty He-Man, and she's always telling Clark that he's not a He-Man. And
Which
but
I guess what we're doing is falling into some misfortunate characterizations there. I guess
yeah,
the dude is big and muscular and very alpha testosterone, and
yep.
that's what um that's what women like, the females. That's what they, it's like, okay, it was probably only a quarter to get in. Oh, into the, well, but still, I mean, there's I don't, let me get to there. They probably drew 10 or 15 little boys coming
Yeah.
in, enough actually to take a whole section of the seating, whatever the seating
Well,
arrangement is. There's enough to take an entire section, we're told. So
yeah, and he actually, Clark says,
sweet Kansas farm money, huh? I
yeah.
don't even know if I know what that is.
Let's see, where's the line? Yeah, Clark buys 100 tickets for those kids.
100. Oh, it said,
Yeah,
okay. So see, even back then, we're in 1940. That'd be $25 if it was a quarter a piece, which
yeah.
is, that's some change. I mean,
But Doug's right. There's nothing more lucrative in this world than farming in Kansas.
in Kansas, yeah. Okay.
You
So
you
what?
got to be one of those lucky farmers, though, that just happens to farm something that the government, pays you a subsidy not to farm. You heard
Oh,
of these? You
okay.
heard of this stuff?
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
I saw a comedian talking about that. It's like, so what do you do for a living? I'm a farmer. Oh yeah, what do you do? I don't farm corn. Get up every morning and I go out to the field and make sure there ain't no corn growing, and then I go back to bed.
Yeah. Paid to
That's
not.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or, I mean, if you really want to, go ahead and grow it. Take the money for not growing it, and then sell what you grew. So you
that's what
double
that's what farmers markets are for.
you double up on it there.
Yeah. Let's see. We're introduced for a moment to the high diving act that does make a return later in the story.
That
That
was an interesting twist on that particular endeavor. Yeah.
yeah, they dive into a large tank that has full of water with gasoline on the surface of the water that's on fire. And they do explain, the guy who runs the circus says that they fall into the water so quickly that the fire can't burn them. And it's like, okay, how do they get out?
Yeah, there's
Does somebody quickly come over and snuff because they're not going to be able to stay underwater for that long.
They push the fire away from one little
I
spot and
guess.
say, "Surface
Yeah,
here."
they're
Yeah,
just doing this, pushing the fire away up.
yeah.
Yeah. Clark is shaking the hand of Herculo and has to pretend like because Herculo's obviously one of those guys that's going to show his strength by crushing your hand, and so Clark has to pretend that it hurt.
I think we've seen it now that it's going to be a common feature that the thought is in parentheses in a
Yeah.
speech bubble.
Yep. Yeah, they obviously haven't at this point when it comes to lettering. Of course, I'm not reading any other Golden Age books. Do you notice that in the Batman books you're reading, or?
No, because honestly, it hasn't gotten to a point that there's a whole lot of inner dialogue really. So there's
So it's just,
no need to differentiate because there's only speech.
So typically what we see in these Superman books is that the parentheses within the word bubble, but because every once in a great while we'll see something slightly different, it's obvious that they haven't come up with that standard yet. They haven't picked this is how the reader knows that it's going to be their inner dialogue because of this. So see if there's anything else about this story I want to talk about.
I also want to know what that powder was that he put on the money.
Right? It covered that guy's hands in red dye.
Bright red, blazing, full color red.
Yeah, that I'm going to get some of that powder.
A small can from his pocket and sprinkle some powder over the bill. So he was already carrying the canister of whatever it was.
Yeah, that's weird. I do like the contest between Herculo and Superman, where Superman's just doing that thing where he lets Herculo hit him, and then he makes some sassy remark to him, and then Herculo's big finishing move, when nothing else works, is to run at Superman and ram his head into Superman's chest, which obviously doesn't work. Knocks him right out.
He's done everything else, and it's like, well, let's see if it's like, dog, you're going to break your neck.
Superman then leaping over the elephants and doing somersaults over each one. That was kind of funny.
He becomes a circus act.
Yeah. Leaps up to the top of the tent and then spins like a top on his way down.
Yep. And and the elephants, it's interesting because basically what he does is he climbs up. We see a row of elephants here in the panel, and he has climbed up or jumped up to the back of one, and then he just does somersaults and lands on the next one, and somersault and that's all. I mean, that's like any trapeze artist, any elephant. I mean, any number of people could do that. I guess it's impressive to look at, but it doesn't have anything to do with him being Superman.
Oh yeah. But during his big performance, that's when we get the reveal of the clown being the bad guy, and we learn that the clown used to be the strong man for the circus, and Jenkins replaced him with Herculo and said, "Well, you can be a clown. You can't be the strong man anymore, but I'll let you be a clown." And so this clown, who's never given a name, he's just known as the clown. He decides to not only start robbing people in every town to make the circus look bad, he dresses up as Herculo to make Herculo look bad.
And I think the more that they draw him, the bigger he gets.
Yes. I was going to say the same thing. The very few appearances we get of him before the reveal, not once did I go, "Whoa, he's a pretty big guy."
Yeah. But leading up to the reveal, and then it's like, oh well, he is as big as Herculo. So didn't start out that way.
No, not at all. I don't know that there's anything else I want to say. It was it was a fun Superman story. It's pretty straightforward, though. Kind of weird that Jack Burnley's the same guy that did the World's Fair issue, right? That we both thought was it was fun, but it was, So maybe they just saved him for the more not crazy stories, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because the next one we're going to talk about in the next episode is pretty fun and crazy.
Make note: the clown shoots Superman.
Yes.
Right. Just make a mental note that somebody shoots Superman in this story.
All right. And we get Herculo. He's the one that actually ends up taking out the clown. So,
yep.
Like,
After being all butthurt that Superman beat him to begin with,
Yeah.
because Herculo, his whole thing was that he was the alpha, as alpha as anybody around here. And Lois said no, and then Superman comes in and proves, well, no. But yet I think that he must have been privy to portions of the conversation, and in my head canon, he is taking out the clown to save his own name.
yeah. Yep.
So
what? Okay. One last thing is the name of the bandit. So a couple of times he's referred to as the Strongarm Bandit, but he's also referred to as Leopard Skin Bandit because the little outfit he wears is leopard skin.
yep, like Tarzan, the over
Yeah,
the one
yeah.
shoulder, whatever that's called, like Tarzan wore in the movies.
Unitard, I think is what it's called. And there's even when the clown is shooting Superman says, "Bullets don't harm me, Mr. Clown," alias Mr. Leopard Skin.
There you go.
It's like, come on. That's the best you can do. Mr. Leopard Skin.
Hey, it is 1940, so
Yeah. Herculo's a good name, I guess, but
you kind of envision what type of character it's going to be just from that name.
Yeah. Now, I was, even though I kind of figured out it was the clown, there was a part of me that was really hoping that it would be Herculo, because he does seem to be, or at least the bandit seemed to be stronger than your average strongman. I mean, he throws that one guy across the room.
Yeah.
He rips the gear shift lever out of the car. And so I'm hoping, all right, we got a strong guy that's finally going to go up against Superman, a couple of powerhouses fighting. And no, that wasn't the case at all.
No, he didn't even come close to Superman. Didn't make him stumble, teeter, nothing.
Yep.
Superman was just a brick house.
Ooh, he's mighty.
Yeah, sorry.
You know what? It was just this year. I was just within the last 6 months, I found out that, never realized that was, I can't even think of the name of the group, but Lionel Richie's group, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just never would have guessed that Lionel Richie would have been on a song, Brick House. It's a good song, though. All right. Anything else you want to say about this?
No, sir.
This issue. All right. So then we'll just close it out, folks. That was Action Comics number 28. So until next week, I'm Steven, and that's Ed. And this was the Superman Super Show. Bye.
Ciao.
Doug's Doug's coming at us with the 411 and the Commodores.
Yes, there we go. I couldn't think of it either. You said it too quickly. I didn't have time to process it.
Yeah. But what I don't remember though is it Lionel Richie solo artist, or is it the Commodores that do Easy Like Sunday Morning?
I thought that was Lionel Richie.
I think it might be.
Terry Ann Moore. Is that Lionel Richie, or was that the Commodores?
I have a slightly funny story about that song. I don't remember what year it was, but a bunch of us got together to go to a concert. I don't remember the opening band. Doug says it was the Commodores.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember the opening band, but the headliner for the show was Pantera. Their biggest album had just come out, but the middle band was Faith No More. If you remember them, they did that song Epic. Mm-hmm. They were not like a heavy freaking band like Pantera. And the first band, which again, I don't remember who it was. I don't think they were very big, but they were really heavy like Pantera was. And so the crowd that was there, they were the type of crowd that would go see Pantera live. So when Faith No More is playing, a lot of the crowd is booing them and telling them, you suck, get off stage, because they want some freaking Pantera type music. And so at one point, because the album that Faith No More had at the time, they did a cover of Easy Like Sunday Morning. Okay. And they did not, try to heavy it up or anything. It sounded like the Commodore's Easy Like Sunday Morning. And so the singer for Faith No More, he he just seemed to enjoy the hatred that they were getting. And so he would introduce songs. He'd say, all right, well, thank you, everybody. And he goes, this next song's called, and then he'd just go, and they'd go into the next song. And the one time that he really just kind of bared down on it was when they played Easy Like Sunday Morning. And I was having so much fun because he's like, this next one is, and then it's Easy Like Sunday Morning. And most of the crowd's going, boo, boo. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I gained a lot of respect for Faith No More that day.
And there you go. Not gonna let the heckler win.
No. All right, that was my keyboard is all the way over here.
48.
I'm like, I don't need my keyboard for this episode, for this recording, and just realized, yes, you do. It's a good thing it's cordless. Come on, Duck. You're making this more difficult for me. Cat's just staring at me. Cat's like, do something. Doug agrees. They did a great cover of that song.
My all-time favorite cover is a cover by and now I'm not going to remember who did it, but it was a cover of Gin and Juice by.
Is it the lounge singer sounding guy?
No, it was a group, a southerny jam rock group.
Yes, I think I've heard that. He had
a really
cover.
Twangy. I don't know if that was String Cheese Incident or I think it was a jam group a la Fish, but it wasn't Fish that did it. But it was a very similar group to that, nice. And they did Gin and Juice in a Alabama twang with the guitar-y banjo kind of accompaniment. It's like, yes, there we go.
I think I've heard that.
And then my second favorite was it Atomic Ant that did Michael Jackson's
Alien Ant Farm?
Yes, or Alien Ant Farm. Okay, yeah.
About 2 weeks to a month before that song came out and hit, I was playing in one of the bands I played in, and I was heading to practice, and I think the original version, Michael Jackson's version, the Gourds, Terry says.
Oh, okay. Not at all what it was, but okay.
Yeah. But the original Smooth Criminal comes on the radio, and I'm driving to practice, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, listen to that freaking groove. And I started to imagine it with just really heavy guitars. And so I get to practice that night, and I tell the guys, you know what we should cover? We should cover freaking Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson.
There you go.
And they looked at me like I was an idiot. And then 3 to 4 weeks later, I'm like, see, guys, see?
If you'd have let me cover it, we'd have beat that.
Yep. You guys just need to listen to me every once in a while.
Never mind. Sorry. Yeah.
Very nice. One of my favorite covers comes off of a Kiss tribute album called Kiss My Ass. And it's Rock and Roll All Night by a band called Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Yes.
And it's like a ballad, and I just love it. It's just one of my most favorite things to listen to.
I can hear Terry. She's playing that cover in the other room. The Gourds. Yeah.
Gin and Juice. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah. I'll have to look that up. All right. I'm recording.
And I may be. Yes, I am as well. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 49. Lois Lane, Murderer.
Bum, bum, bum.
Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Ed, and 1,000 miles over there to my left is another host, Mr. Steeven Orr.
Hello.
All right, now I have an announcement to make.
Okay.
So far, Miss Terry Moore of the YouTube commenting here and myself have decided that we are going to South Carolina Con in April, probably for 2 days, and Heroes Con in June, probably for a day.
Okay.
So far. So it is the beginning of our con schedule.
Heroes Con, that's over in North Kakalaki.
That's in Charlotte. And South Carolina Con, if he hadn't bugged out on us, the weenie, is down there where Mr. Chris Parton used to live in Greenville.
Well, I've got Planet Comic-Con every year that's practically in my backyard, and I've gone once, maybe in the last 15, 20 years. So,
Well, now I will say, different comic book fans will go to conventions for different reasons.
yeah.
At this point, I think Terry and I primarily have two things that we want to do, so it kind of dictates when and where we go. One thing is we really enjoy how much we support is kind of another issue, but we really enjoy seeing all of the burgeoning creators with their wares. We do pick up stuff, but I think probably we just walk on by as many as we do support. We obviously we can't support everybody, but so we really enjoy that. And the other thing is we enjoy bin diving for back issues. That's a biggie.
Yeah, see the two main reasons I would go, well, the three reasons I would go to a convention. One, to buy stuff, be it back issues or whatnot. Two, to meet creators.
Okay.
And hopefully, I'll say hopefully get something signed, but not because, I got an autograph, I'm going to turn around and sell it. No, it's just, for me, it's an easy way to meet a creator rather than just walking up and saying, hey, I don't have anything for you to sign. I just want to say hi, which I have done before. I did that with Scotty Young. The one time I did go to Planet Comic-Con in the last 20 years. Scotty Young
think they mind that.
I don't think they do. Him and Cullen Bunn, I talked to both of them at that con. There was nobody at their table, and I just walked up and said, hey, I just wanted to tell you thank you because, with Cullen Bunn, I think The Sixth Gun was out at the time. And I said, I love this book. And but the third reason I would go is for panels. I always enjoy some of those panels.
Okay.
But man, Planet Comic-Con is freaking expensive to get into.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
Is it part of the Wizard World stuff, or maybe not Wizard World, but part of New York?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
What is the group? They own New York and they do some others. A la Wizard, but not. I can't think of what they call their group.
Yeah. But it's really. You've got New York on the East Coast, you've got San Diego on the West Coast, and then when it comes to big conventions in the central part of the country, it's like Kansas City and Chicago. So,
I was going to say, does Chicago count geographically for what you're thinking? Yeah, the C2E2.
Yep. Well, I today, as we're recording this, March 21st, I finished editing episode 3 of Hither Named Conan.
Cool beans.
And found myself jumping into a bit of a rabbit hole because as I'm editing, there's a point in the show where I'm talking about the Conan's his chronology, the life of Conan, basically, and how I've probably mentioned it on all 3 episodes that the Frost Giant's daughter is his first adventure, even though it was never published until I think after Robert E. Howard died. But as I'm listening to it this time and I hear myself say that, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if that is actually a fact. I keep saying it as if it's a fact. And so I look up, I just did a Conan chronology, and oh boy, talk about a heated debate topic. There are scholars, Conan scholars, editors who have worked on the series of books after Robert E. Howard died, other writers that have written the Conan stories. There is like, I go to this website that's like, shows me 6 different Conan chronologies. And I'm like, what does that mean? And so I start reading through, and it's like, all right, so it started with like a couple of fans back in the 40s who wrote a letter to Robert E. Howard and said, we love your Conan books. This is how we see the chronology of Conan's life based on your short stories. And I guess he wrote back and he said, that's pretty close. I kind of think of it like this. And I guess one of the big hotly debated topics is when the Frost Giant's daughter falls within that chronology, because some folks put it like in the middle when he's in his mid-20s, and other folks put it as his first adventure. And so after a while, I'm just like, I got to walk away. At least I know that there are some people that think it's his first adventure. So I'm not going to feel, because I was thinking, I think I may have to, if I discover that I'm wrong, I'm going to have to record some kind of retraction, put it up on the episode. But yeah, the more I learn about freaking Conan, the more amazed I get at just some of the stuff that's out there. The fact that his first story, he was already a king, that blew my mind. And then these various people that have tried over the years to sort all of the stories, not just his, but the stories that came after, into some kind of chronology. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, given a very small set of parameters, if those kind of informations aren't given, you really can't. I mean, unless, a reference to another character in a one-off passage maybe or something. Okay. But I could see, particularly at the time that not only Robert Howard, but the pulp concept was out there, that was the very farthest thing from their mind.
Yep.
Character, story, get it out there.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, that would, they're like, they make fun of like Stan Lee about how he misses the names of characters and all this. I'm like, that had to have been going on back then too, that for what was the dude that was strong and had golden skin? Doc
Savage.
His driver probably had 3 or 4 different names, or his chauffeur, not just because it's like, that's not what the dude is writing about. He's writing about Doc Savage. And so, so it's like, and then you're like, oh no, this one came before that one. It's like, oh, please.
It's, because in my mind, I feel like I had probably read somewhere that Frost Giant's daughter was one of the first. And at least when it came to just the Robert E. Howard stories, it was, as far as Conan's life, his first adventure. But the one chronology I kind of read through where he was also saying Frost Giant's daughter has got to be first. A lot of people go back to, I guess, this original chronology that these 2 fans back in the day put together. Okay. And the guy points out, first of all, you got to understand that Frost Giant's daughter hadn't been released at that point. So that's why it's not included in their chronology, because it wasn't a thing.
Right.
Secondly, just the reason I looked it up, because episode 4 that I'm going to do next is the Tower of the Elephant. Conan's a thief. The scene in Conan the Barbarian where he and the guy scale the tower and they go in to steal the stuff. That's based on the Tower of the Elephant. So he is in the thieving part of his life at this point. And it's, as far as where Cimmeria is, the city where the tower is south. Whereas everything he does in the Frost Giant's daughter is north of Cimmeria. And so this guy points out, it's like, well, first of all, Frost Giant's daughter wasn't even written at the time of that chronology. Secondly, because apparently there's a copy of that letter out there that Robert E. Howard wrote back to these guys and said, you got most of it right. I like to think, though, that after Conan left Cimmeria, he didn't go south, he went north. And so the dude's like, there it is, right there. Bam. Right. And he also, his other argument was he thinks a lot of folks who, because when they put their chronologies together, it's mainly because they're getting ready to release like a bunch of books. Okay. Re-release a bunch of books. And here's the order because this is
to read them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And his argument is the reason why a lot of those folks put Frost Giant's daughter in the middle is because it's a story in which there's almost an attempted rape, basically. Conan's trying to get this girl and rape her.
Right.
And they didn't want the first story in the book to be about an attempted rape.
Or do you? Because then you show that Conan got better.
Exactly. Growth. Yep.
Yes. Extreme growth from, rather than, he was this and that kind of bad and he was a thief, tried to rape somebody. And then it's like,
right. Yeah.
How do you just throw that in there?
Right.
It's like, no. He was hardcore, didn't care, tried to rape somebody. And then you see, all this, and then he gave up thieving. And then you see, it's like, okay.
Well, and if that chronology is the actual chronology, then he would have been like 16 years old in that story. So, young, dumb, and how do they put it? Full of...
Yeah. Yep.
Not that it justifies anything.
No, not at all. But
that's not what I'm trying to do here. If you listen to the third episode, you'll hear my thoughts on that, because I actually got some listener feedback that I read in that episode.
Oh, cool beans. Alrighty, man, we good?
I'm good. My banter is done.
All right. Stay tuned for next episode's banter. We talk about some current comic books.
That's right.
I think I'm in the same boat as Steven, but we will see. All right. What we are going to look at. We see here that according to Steven, the Widder was Jerry Siegel.
Wow.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Bus, Steven, Bus.
This is... I'm always putting these show notes together really like within 2 hours before we start recording. So it's a lot of copying and pasting. And sometimes I
didn't even notice that until right now as I'm sitting here reading it. Yeah. So,
yep.
Jerry Siegel wrote this, and then it was penciled and inked by Mr. Paul Cassidy. And that is courtesy of, as well as the cover date of October 1940. And an actual on sale date of July 10th, 1940. All info courtesy of Mike's Amazing World of Comics. So September, October, July, August, September. Yeah, so it's slipping to maybe about 3 months now.
Yeah.
But it has been like just 1 month separating, if that. So
well, and it's normally the cover date is later than when it actually goes on sale. So that's kind of weird. And I think it's the first time, it might be the first Superman issue where we have 2 months as the cover. It's the September-October issue.
Right. Well, is he bi-monthly at this point, or is he monthly?
I think so. I
think it's been
know
bi-monthly.
At one point it felt like it was quarterly.
Right. Right.
But I think it's bi-monthly at this point, because we seem to do like 3 Action Comics issues and then a Superman.
That would be probably quarterly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So guys, in let's see, Lois Lane Murderer, the first story from Superman number 6. This is what happened. Lois Lane is suspected of murdering. Well, there you go. There's the title right there.
Yep.
Okay, next. No. Lois Lane is suspected of murdering a jewel collector when she is found near the body of the man. And we'll get into it, but she was kind of found more than that. But Superman, wishing to help Lois prove her innocence, gathers the other suspects, which include John and Henry Davis, the victim's nephews, and Berkeley, the house architect. That is actually the architect of the house that the jewel collector lived in and where he was found.
Not the live-in architect.
Right. Yeah, not the house architect. Yeah. The Man of Steel manages to gain the cooperation of the police and tricks Berkeley into confessing. He'd set up Lois and the others to take the blame for the crime while he escaped with the stolen jewels. Now, that is just a very short and not very coveragey kind of synopsis.
I mean, in essence, it tells you what happened, but it doesn't.
In very few words.
Yeah, it doesn't even give you a hint at two of the craziest things that Superman does in this issue.
Yep. So let's see what.
Let's talk about the cover to issue number 6 really quick, because first of all, it's very minimalistic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got Superman striking the Superman pose with his hands on his hips and a white circle around him, and then just a really off yellow rest of the cover. But it's like an autographed 8x10.
That's exactly what it looks like is a photograph, and they just slammed the logo at the top on it. And
he's very truly yours, Clark Kent, with Superman in parentheses. It's, hey buddy, you're not trying very hard to keep that secret identity secret.
Yeah, no, not doing that for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. So that it was the next page, which I guess I don't know if this would be the inside, because the book I'm looking at is not the actual book, of course. So I don't know if it was the inside of the cover or if it was the first page inside the book, but it has 2, 4, 6 panels of action with a actiony posed Superman in an oval in the midst of the surrounding frames.
Yeah, they did that in issue 5 as well.
It's much more actiony than the cover is.
Yeah, and it's almost the same kind of setup that they did in, it's obviously not the same art or the same little adventure scenes that they're showing, but it's very similar to the setup that they used in issue 5.
So the synopsis is, it starts pretty accurately. Lois goes to talk to this jewel collector because she just thinks it'll be things are slow at the paper.
Yep. Oh, you just froze up on me.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. There you go. There you go. You're back.
Okay. To go talk to him about his gem collection, basically, and either his collection or what it's like to collect gems, or just whatever, just to have an article to put in the paper. So she goes to the house, and this is my first beef, because actually she does the same thing in the next story. The door is not locked.
Yeah.
So that means she can go in.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that constitutes breaking and entering.
Yep.
It's not a matter of whether the door is open, locked. It's a matter of whether or not you have permission, is my understanding.
Right. Now, if, the way they kind of handle that nowadays, you'll see it in TV shows where they come to the door and they, hey, you home? Knock, knock, knock. And the door kind of goes and opens up a little, and then they're immediately suspicious. Everything is everything okay in there? And they open up the door. Oh, you're there. And then they come in to investigate why the door is open. Lois is just like, well, nobody's answering the door, but the door's open, so I'll just walk in. She actually says it. No one answers, and the door is open. I'll walk in. Those are her exact words.
Yep, that's what she says. Trespassing, maybe. Yeah, rather than B&E. Yeah, maybe trespassing is more accurate. So as soon as she goes in, she gets the chloroform cloth over the mouth, kind of knock her out. KTFO, as the kids say nowadays. We cut back to the paper. Well, we cut back to Clark. He went to talk to the police to see if there's anything interesting going on, while Lois went to actually talk to this jeweler. Well, he gets there, and there has been a call to the police about a situation involving this same jeweler. Now, I don't think that Clark necessarily reacts really in any way, but
No.
he knows that she went to talk to this same jeweler because she talked about him by name, and the police officer dropped that same name.
Yeah, he doesn't. He just. Yeah, I don't know what. I don't know if that's just a problem with the writing. They just did. Oh, yeah, that's right. He knew she was going. But
Yeah. So basically, the officer invites Clark on a ride along, is
yeah,
what it is, and a competing reporter sees Clark in the car and knows something must be going on, and he inserts himself
yeah,
into the car as well.
jumps onto the running board of the moving car and just slides in through the open window. Scoop Carter is his name.
Of course it is. Yeah, of the
And
Morning Pictorial.
yeah, and this is who I assumed the killer was, because he's introduced very early, and I just assumed. And so when it wasn't, I was a little disappointed.
He does have a rather aggressive, off-putting kind of
Yeah, my
personality. So it would be, well, he is the killer, and he's going to try to steer them into something
yeah,
else because
my
he's a reporter. And
yeah, my thought was, like Lois and Clark, he is a reporter. He's a news hound that's out there just trying to dig up a story, and he just figured he would make one by
right,
killing a
there you
famous
go.
wealthy guy.
It was really slow for him too.
Yep.
So here we see something that we haven't seen that often, and actually we did see it in the previous story, but I didn't mention it. Clark uses his X-ray vision
Yeah.
to scope some things out. He did that looking into a tent, looking for
Yes.
the thief in the previous story, and I
Yep.
neglected to mention that. But here there's something interesting about the house, the design, which normally would be just a throwaway, perhaps, but the fact that the architect of the house also gets involved in this
Yeah.
story makes it a little bit more interesting, and we find out why the house is the way it is.
Yeah.
But it's a house of doors, uh, pretty much, kind of like you would envision in the previous story, say a hall of mirrors or
Yeah.
a tent of mirrors. Only this is a house of doors for the same reason. The doors are intended to disorient people because this dude has a gem jewelry collection, and so anybody that would get in and try to do something would get lost, or come to find out would get locked in,
Yeah.
because apparently from the main entry part of the house, the doors all lock on that side. So
Yep.
if you go in and the door
You,
closes, you're
you
automatically locked in the next room,
yeah, you go in, but you're not coming out.
not coming out. So they go in, and Norval's on the floor, shot in the back. And immediately, Mr. Newshound, what was his name? Carter,
Scoop
picks
Carter.
up the phone and starts relaying the message to his copy editor. And then when he gets done, rather than handing the phone to Clark, which is what Clark asked, he rips it out of the wall and says, "Oh, here you go. Oh, I'm
That's
sorry. Look at that."
that is number 3 of my top 3 favorite moments in this story.
Okay. So they keep investigating things, and Clark slash Superman has heard some noises from another room that they haven't gone into yet. And when they go into that room, they find Lois. So Lois is more than just whatever the synopsis said. She's in the house,
Yeah.
with the body, alone. It's only her. There is a dead body, and they come and they suspiciously find both. So, she is implicated more than just a little bit
Yeah.
so far.
She's the prime suspect.
Absolutely, with good reason. I mean,
Yeah.
she said, "Oh, my head, I don't remember it." It's like, well, of course that's what you're saying. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's like, what? You're not helping us out any. And so the officer just arrests her, just flat out. I'm sorry, but I'll have to arrest you for the murder of Norval. And that's it. So here we see Carter. He's like, dang, why did I mess up the phone? I should have called this in. But yeah, he's not able to because he ripped the phone out of the wall.
But we learn, not to spoil anything, but we learn by the end of the story, there's obviously another phone in the house, which Lois uses to call in the story. And he's like, oh, she got to the other phone.
Right. Yeah. She called it in before I did.
Yeah.
Like, well, Carter, if you hadn't ripped the other phone out, you could have used it. And while Lois was using it. Yeah. So Clark changes to Superman, chases after the police car that they're taking Lois to jail in to, actually, I think they say to prison, which I thought was kind of, wow. So he helps Lois escape, or he facilitates her escape, which I made a note of that because that's kind of no. I mean, I understand, the rest of the story trying to prove her innocent, but I can't imagine that you free someone and then try to prove them innocent, because if it wasn't uphill to begin with, boy, it's really uphill now what you're having to prove because you helped her escape custody.
Yep.
So, and here on page, I don't know, whatever this is, where he's somersaulting over the car to get away from the cops, opens the door and gets her out. This big panel where he's holding her, tell me he's not flying.
Right. There's actually a note on Mike's Amazing World of Comics. For some of the issues and stories, he puts comments in there. And there's a comment on this one that says, Superman appears to be flying, but he's still supposed to only be jumping. But no, he's flying.
Now, I'm not sure if it occurs again later in this one or in the next story, but there's a panel that even more so makes it look like he's flying. So
yeah, I think it's the next one.
Okay, yeah. So he carries her off. They go back to Norval's house because Superman is going to look for clues and whatever.
And real quick, talking about the flying, because basically when they go to the house, he lands on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he's flying, he can gently land on the roof. If he's jumping, then he's falling out of the sky like a freaking meteor. He would just go right through that roof.
Okay. I can't argue that. That's, and if not, okay, well, no, Superman can control his weight to land.
Then
if he can do that, can he not fly?
Yeah. Right.
So it's, okay. Now, if it had been on the street like we see constantly, it's like, okay, maybe he left a dent and they just didn't draw it, whatever. Okay. But here he's landing on the roof of the house, falling at, remember, kids, 32 feet per second squared. That is the velocity of something dropped in Earth's gravitational pull. That's not escape velocity. That's a completely different concept. So, he to get what is it? The guards? Yeah, this is to draw the guards out of the house. I'm like, guards? What are they guarding?
They're police officers, and they're still there. The body is still there, basically.
They're investigating. So he's drawing the guards out, and then he starts, digging and snooping around. He checks out the body over here. They come in, and here again, story number 2, they shoot at him. He catches some bullets, which is pretty cool. He tosses them to the one officer here, and my first thought was, I wonder if those puppies are still hot, and he's tossing them to him. And, so, and the one officer has turned his revolver on his face,
right? And
he's looking at it because it didn't work. He's like, "Oh, well, hang on, dude, it'll work here in a minute,
idiot."
Just hit it a couple times, and So here, Superman says, "I'm back here because I don't think Lois did it," and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, where is Lois?" Which also, is it here? I think it's here. They make a reference. It's the guy who escaped with Lois, with the Lane girl. Like they don't know his name. They don't know who he is. Just that they saw him, just down here downtown a little while ago. So, but
Yeah,
yet,
as much
I
as we're both looking forward to the issue where he legitimately starts to fly, I think we're also both looking forward to the issue where people stop not knowing who he is.
yes, yes. I mean, it, the thought is, wow, is Metropolis really that big?
Yeah.
You know, I'll give it to you that in modern day New York or Chicago or LA, if you live somewhere and perhaps you don't have the money to avail yourself of all the sources of information, maybe you don't know, but that would take a lot. It means you don't listen to
Yeah.
the radio, you don't read a newspaper. Today, it means you don't watch television. And I guess there are people out there that don't do any of those. I
Yeah.
don't know
Well,
how they do it, but
you wouldn't even have to buy a newspaper. Just walk by a newsstand. You know he's been on the front cover a
yeah,
number
you
of
could say,
times.
oh, yeah. So, but still, what is this? We're almost 50 stories in, and there are people who act like
Yeah.
they've never heard of Superman.
Or I've heard the stories, but I never believed it until I saw
Yeah.
it.
So, so he goes to, let's see, where does he go this time? He goes to John Davis's house. Who is John Davis?
One of the nephews.
One of the nephews. Okay, and he's not there. So, okay, here, this page.
Yep.
This next panel, he looks, he
Yeah.
sees an airline timetable left here and a underlined or circle. The next panel, Superman speeds through the sky at such a terrific speed, his figure appears to blur. And in the panel, it does blur. He's not jumping there.
He's
And he's not
flying.
running. He's not
No.
on the ground. He's not running. Now, he does run in another place in the story because he even says so. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay. Just give it over, guys. Just
Just give in to
make
your
that move.
instincts. Yeah.
Just go. So he does catch up with the airplane, and he gets one of the nephews and carries him. You're a fan of that, aren't you, Stephen?
This is my this is my number 2 in my top 3 favorite moments of the book.
Okay.
He leaps up to the plane, forces himself onto the plane. He's literally walking down the center aisle of the plane, and he says, "Which one of you is John Davis?" And this guy's like, "Me?" And he just grabs him and jumps off the plane with him.
Jumps out the plane. Yeah. First of
Yeah.
all, he ripped the door open. What do they call it? The emergency door.
Yeah.
The plane is in flight. Okay, it's in the air. It's going to wherever it's going to go. So it's reached elevation, and Superman just catches up to the plane by jumping, of course,
Yeah.
and it just rips the emergency door off the plane and walks into the plane. Then
And just
he,
kidnaps a passenger right off the
yep,
plane. Apparently the pilot goes after him. But here's another. The pilot says, "Look at them soaring through the sky."
yep,
And he's running through the sky again, and holding the guy under his arm who's saying,
yep.
"Don't go so fast. I can hardly breathe." And "You'll manage."
But yeah, there we go. But though the plane hits as high a speed as 250 miles an hour, Superman easily outdistances it
Yeah.
by jumping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So he lands with the one nephew and grabs up the other nephew. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Finds something. Is this another X-ray? Yeah. Here's another X-ray vision. He sees that the dude is hiding something when he knocks on the door. Before he
Yeah.
answers the door, he hides something that he's got. Superman gets it and finds that it's a piece of jewelry that Norval. Well, you don't know that it was Norval's per se, but being a jewelry collector, here's a big expensive piece of jewelry.
Yep.
Norval is dead. He collects these things, so I think you would call that circumstantial, but it's
Yeah.
assumption after assumption after assumption, and that's what Superman does, and so that's what we're led to do as the reader. He tries to explain it. If you must know, my uncle sent it over, then phoned and told me he wanted me to sell it for him. It's the it does turn out to be important that it happened, but you don't necessarily know that now. It's going to turn out to be part of the aspect of the person who is responsible and what he's doing to set things up. So now Superman has a man under each arm, and he's going to the house architect. House, not the house or house architect, not the house architect.
The architect of the house.
Yes. It's like he's got him in residence there. He's the house architect.
It's like, Berkeley designed something for me today.
Yes. We've got the patch there out by the garden. Build something. Yeah. Which is funny. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen somebody so rich to do that yet.
Right. Yeah.
In this day and age, I would think over the top rich. They're so rich that they. So now Superman grabs the architect, and now he jumps off again with two dudes under one arm and one under the other. So now he's hopping around, whiplashing these men with three men in tow.
While that didn't make my top three, it's an honorable mention. The panel of him, because we talked in a previous episode where he had that one guy under his arm and the guy's laying backwards, so his back would have been broken. All three of these guys are laying the same way, face up, as he's holding them. So
now, is this next panel your number one?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, the honorable mention leads to my number one favorite moment of the book, and it's as Superman arrives at Norval's house with the three suspects. Rather than just take them inside, he throws each one of them through an open window inside, calling out, "There's the men you're looking for," to the police.
And they're just saying, "Back so soon?"
Yeah, exactly. It's, "Oh, you're back already," as three men come flying into the window. Yeah.
Now here, Superman leaves, okay, assuming that the police will retain these three men, right? Because he's going to go get Lois. This is the confrontation of the accused and the accuser and the Sherlock Holmes. That's it. The gather everyone, all the principals, and then go through and explain why they are guilty or not guilty. That's
the
what
wrap
we're all
up.
getting. So we have the four suspects, counting Lois, Superman, who knows, quote unquote, what's going on, and officials, the police officers. So then he, first he kind of puts Carter in his place here with a little He-Man-ishness there. Yep. But he then Superman starts trying to explain who is the guilty party, but then he stops and he reaches behind this radio, and he appears to find something, and one of the policemen, the policeman in charge, sergeant, whatever he may be, asks him, "I see you got something over there. What is it?" Superman's like, "Well, come over here and I'll tell you." So they step out of the room. And I guess they didn't close the door because they didn't get locked out. Right. So, yeah. Okay.
But I think that's part of the plan, because they seem to overhear, or at least Lois does. She at least hears Superman use the term photographic library.
Right.
Laboratory. Right. Yeah.
Laboratory,
not library.
So Superman plays that there's a photograph of the killer in action at the moment that Norval is killed. And he's got the photograph.
If that would have been real, that would have been my favorite moment. The fact that he says there was a hidden camera set up, not a video camera. It is a hidden camera that was set up and designed to snap a picture at the sound of a gunshot.
Yes, it was sound activated. And so they have a picture of the culprit here, and immediately the officer says, "Raise your hands, Berkeley. You're under arrest for the murder of Norval." We go back and forth here a little bit. The Berkeley snatches a gun, shoots Superman. Okay, again, Superman gets shot in the chest. He is subdued, and we find out that, Superman was just joking. I didn't really have a picture. I just thought it was you, and of course, you gave it away.
Yeah, that was a big gamble.
Yep. Yeah. And then the final panel is the panel that you mentioned about how Lois is on a phone, probably in this same main room, because I mean that's where everything happened, calling in her copy of the story, and Carter's like, "Oh, dang, she got to the phone before me."
And I like how Clark's running in. I've got your bail money, Lois, as if he doesn't know everything that happened.
Well, but she wouldn't be here.
Right. Yeah. Why
She
would he
would
come to
still
the
be
house with her bail money?
exactly.
Yeah.
She would still be wherever, and he would take the yeah. So
So
okay.
not only does he pose as a weakling, he also poses as an idiot.
Yeah, I don't know. And now, of course, this is with, we both have much experience, life, reading, whatever, so we can kind of nitpick these things
Oh,
like
yeah.
this. At the time, did anybody necessarily? If you're 8 years old, would there have been
Yeah.
any connection like that you made? It's
Yeah.
funny because, well, they just proved she didn't do it, and he's coming with her bail money. Ha ha ha! They don't need bail money. Okay, so
Yeah.
it worked. It's funny. Yeah. So, and that I say that just to say, well, yeah, I acknowledge that perhaps I'm being unfair, kind of, nitpicking this, but we got to have something to talk about.
That's one of the fun things about these kinds of comics, is to be able to nitpick the things that, for us, because again, I don't remember if it was this episode or last episode, the people who the authors of today are a bit more sophisticated when it comes to telling a story. And for all we know, like you said, an 8-year-old read this back then, and to them it was like the first time somebody recently reading the freaking Da Vinci Code or something, just like, holy crap, how did he figure that out?
Right.
And
yep.
So yeah, but that's why these are kind of fun, is to point out those little ridiculous things that probably weren't ridiculous back then.
Right. That pretty much is everything I've got.
Yeah, it was a fun story.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it wasn't, the craziness of those Action Comics 26 and 27, the Wayward Boys Home, and
right,
and I don't remember the other one, but I think that 26 is the episode that came out today, as or yesterday as we're recording this, and that was, listening back to that was a lot of fun when I was editing and putting it together.
Remembering that story,
yeah. But it's still just like, whenever I can have a top 3 craziest moments in an issue, because I sure didn't have that in the previous issue.
Right.
The previous episode. That's always a plus for me when I have to choose. I have different scenes to choose from as being crazy, because there's so many of them. That is a top-notch book in my opinion.
Something that just struck me thinking the previous episode / issue we talked about, which was Action 28, right? Yeah.
Yes.
That's a setting that you probably you do see it sometimes today, but not that often. The carnival kind of thing in the early 21st century is a no bueno, pretty much. Yep. I mean, it just we still have our state fairs, and I don't know. It probably occurs where you're at, but we have a couple different of those small carnival companies that will come through at different times of the year, and they'll set up in some parking lot and stuff like that. Not a big thing, maybe 20, 25 total things to do.
Yep.
So you have that, but I don't think that it is as widely perhaps understood as that roving circus kind of thing, especially now that Barnum and Bailey actually doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
They went under. So I don't know if there's another company that does that. I remember as a child living in Chicago, Illinois, I attended one of their shows.
Yeah.
Barnum and Bailey. That was
cool. I don't know if it was Barnum and there used to be a just within the last 15 years, in Topeka, every year there'd be a circus because my father-in-law would take us and the kids.
Okay.
And I feel like it was Barnum and Bailey, but it may have been one of the Shriner circuses.
Shriner, right? Yeah.
But yeah, it was the whole trapeze artists, lion tamers. It was the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you just don't. It's not as ubiquitous now as it would have been in 1940. So, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. So, all right. Anything else, Stephen?
Nope. Done with this one.
All righty, folks. We do want to thank you for listening. So until next week, I'm Ed. That is Steven. And this was the Superman Super Show.
Bye.
Ciao.
All right, let me save this sucker. Keyboard.
And I don't know if you saw it or remember it, but there was a really, really cool television show that HBO had on for a couple seasons called Carnival. It was
I heard of it, never watched it.
Knopf Brothers, I think it was. That was awesome. It was set right after those Dust Bowl years, or maybe during them, but not at the height of that. A roving carnival or circus. It was a roving circus, and it was about the avatars of light and dark, good and bad. And the twist was ultimately it was on for 2 seasons and then it got canceled. And the way that they had intended it to be was that it was going to be 3 2-season chapters, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yeah. And by the end of the first season, you pretty much knew who the avatars were, and you knew if it represented light or dark, or so you thought.
Oh, twist!
Because by the end of the second season, you saw that at the very least, the avatar for this one side is not. So does that mean the avatar for the other side is not also, or are they even? But you definitely knew the one avatar was not representing the side that you thought during the first season.
Huh. I wonder if that's on HBO Max.
I'm not sure. I have the DVDs. I liked it so much. So
yeah.
But it was it was really the setting was just spot on. The manager that you saw of the carnival was a little person.
Okay.
The boss that he constantly referred to resided in the wagon, looked like one of those gypsy fortune teller wagons that you see in movies. The manager that was the little person lived in the same wagon as the owner of the whole thing, and the owner was always only a disembodied voice. You never saw them.
Wow.
The number one, who was also the strong guy, was an ex-baseball player that blew out his knee, and so he couldn't play baseball anymore. So he was a big, strong, tough dude, but he always kind of hobbled around because he had this big brace on his knee. But good stuff. You had the bearded lady, you had fortune teller, a trapeze female, you had a strong man. One of the avatars turned out to be just a dude that left his house and needed a job, so he hired on as just a step and fetch it kind of dude, doing whatever. Yeah. Turns out though he was one of the avatars that the story was about. All right. And
Cat walked across my keyboard, and now the show notes are kind of messed up, but I think it's still got.
Are they locked?
Episode.
Oh, my keyboard's locked.
It shows episode 48, but it's the notes for episode 50.
Yeah, Racketeer Terror in Gateston. And
Gateston.
just as you say that, my big 20-pound Glumpy here jumps up on the desktop next to me. Hasn't been here all night. Been in there with Mom. But now, I guess, I don't know, maybe she's gone to bed or something, and
And they're like,
he's
well, the other
here.
guy's talking about his cats. I want to get in on this too.
Yeah, really. Okay, so I am ready to go with the banter being about some DC comics.
All right. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 50, Racketeer Terror in Gateston. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steeven, and 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore.
Howdy, folks. So, Steeven, I unceremoniously put a stop to a topic that you wanted to discuss earlier tonight. So, the floor is yours, sir.
In episode 47, we started our banter. We were going to talk about, I had recently read Superman issue number 1. That, as far as when we're recording this, came out a month ago because I'm reading all that stuff on the app. And a number of episodes before that, you had mentioned that you had read issue number 1. And I think you had said something to the effect of there was a certain thing about the story that it's like, you were just like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Why, why wouldn't they do that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember? Was it the Lex Luthor?
I think what it was the fact that he would just walk around going through his daily thing and just talking, just like you and I are talking. And Superman, who knows how many bloody whatever's away, can hear him.
And he knows that.
Of course, that's the entire reason why he is having a conversation with Superman. And, people around Lex are like, dude, it's crazy. He's just always walking around talking to himself. No, Superman can hear every word he says.
And I really liked how they handled it from the beginning of the issue, because they're putting in these little balloons of Lex talking to Superman, but you as the reader have no idea what those represent.
Right, exactly.
And it's stuff like Superman's going up against somebody and they're like, and all of a sudden there's this little kind of balloon that's like, break her leg, and giving him advice on how to take somebody out, but very violently and completely the opposite way Superman would do it. So at first I was like, is this his inner dialogue? Are we going to find out that Superman has a dark side that he just never lets out, but he's always thinking about it, which would have been freaking interesting.
Oh, man.
But when you found out it's Lex who's in prison, just talking to him constantly, because he knows that Superman, he can pretty much hear everybody on the earth, but he's able to focus his hearing to pay particular attention to certain people, Mom, Pa, Lois, and
always
Lex Luthor. Yeah, that was really fun.
And I think it even gets to the point in that issue where Superman's like, damn, I wish I could turn this off now.
Right.
And it's not.
Yeah.
Like, nope, too late. You've already tuned that one in, dog. So it's.
Yeah. Because like immediately when he's hearing this stuff and you're like, what is going on here? At one point he goes, hush, or, would you just hush or something like that? And you're like, okay, so is he talking to himself? Is he trying to quiet that inner dialogue? And that was a lot of fun. They did it really well.
That was very clever.
Doug agrees. He says, I thought that was a clever idea to frame the story. And the artist on that issue, and hopefully for many issues of Superman to come, is Jamal Campbell, who was the artist on the 12-issue Far Sector miniseries about Green Lantern Sojourner Joe Mullen, who, after reading those 12 issues, is now my favorite Green Lantern.
Okay.
Due in part because of the art. That guy's art is just great. And there's some moments with Superman. First of all, I always appreciate an artist who gives Superman trunks instead of jockeys, outside of his pants. I like the trunks better than the the jockey tighty whities that are actually red kind of look. But yeah, I the art was just amazing, and then you have this pretty darn good, clever idea of a story going along with it, and
So
it was
far.
a lot of fun.
I will add to that and say that I have also consumed Action Comics 1051 and 1052.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that all these books that I'm going to mention have in common are they are bannered Dawn of DC.
Dawn of DC. Yep.
Dawn of DC. So, Superman 1, now 2, as we're recording this, comes out tomorrow, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
The next issue. So, I've read Action Comics 1051 and 1052, which revolve around the Superman family. So it's a much broader look at Superman. A little teeny bit of him, but actually it's the other characters that seem to be the focus for that book. Catwoman 52, which okay, now I'm going to say things about some of these titles, and they may be spoilers to those of you that haven't read it. Does that bother you if I do that, Stephen?
Nope.
I'm not going to necessarily give a major thing away, just some little things.
Yeah, the way my brain works and the fact that these issues won't be on the app for a month,
Okay.
I'm probably going to forget them anyway. So,
Catwoman 52. It's not Selena Kyle that's Catwoman. She's in prison.
Is this a Dawn of DC?
Yes, it's labeled that. I didn't know that it would. Well, all the announcements have been, of course, about number ones.
Yeah.
Now I am finding out that there maybe are, shifts of some sort for ongoing titles that are going to be included in this as well. The first one that I ran across was Catwoman 52. So yeah, right off the bat, it starts. No, Selena Kyle's in prison. This Catwoman is another woman. I have not been reading Catwoman. I didn't even know who the heck that was. So I'm like, oh, okay. The Adventures of Superman, John Kent. I
looking
read
forward to that one. I
don't know. There just hasn't been anything that I have heard or actually seen about John Kent that has really grabbed me. So it's he was also in the Action Comics issues.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I like him. I didn't want to at first, and frankly, the only reason I started reading any stories from him or featuring him were because Tom Taylor was writing the book.
Okay.
And big fan of him. So
something interesting, just to put in the back of your mind, maybe keep an eye on what DC does with John Kent.
Okay.
Because in the next 8 years, the first issue of Action Comics goes into public domain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so far, DC isn't showing any signs of trying to prevent that. So that may influence Superman, John Kent, as far as what they do. Maybe.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things about it. It's not Superman that is going into the public domain. It's the way, it's other things like his outfit, the fact that he can't fly, Lois Lane, because she's named. A lot of the things that we associate with Superman as far as powers and the outfit he wears now, and the fact that he can fly, and things that he didn't, that he has done, that he didn't do in the first issue of Action, but he does now.
Yeah.
Those things are secure. That's not going to be, but if everybody has the chance to do on Superman, DC could say, well, let's X-Men him down and let's Inhuman John Kent to do a parallel, which of course, for those of you that read Marvel Comics know that didn't bloody work at all, but okay. Okay. So I am looking forward to this Wednesday as we're recording. Superman 2 comes out.
Okay.
Nightwing 102, which has a Dawn banner.
Nice.
And Catwoman 53.
Okay.
So, I plan on reading all of those. The Dawn of DC has interested me because just because so
Yeah, it's the two things I was kind of looking forward to with DC was the Dawn of DC and then Lazarus Planet, which really hasn't done anything for me. I still
okay.
don't understand because everything I had read about it beforehand when they were hyping it up, it's like, all right, this is the new event that's coming out this year for DC, Lazarus Planet. And when I think of event, I think of, a core miniseries, whether it's 6 issues, 9 issues, or whatever, and then a bunch of tie-ins that go around it. But so far, all they've put out is just a bunch of one-shots, and like Lazarus Planet, War on Krypton, Lazarus Planet, blah blah blah. And that kind of it's almost like back in the day when Marvel would do their crossovers that only went through the annuals.
Right.
That it's like when every issue is a different creative team in the story. For me, I can't get into it.
Now that's the kind of exercise that, in a mean way, I typically describe as being more masturbatory than than anything long lasting. So, I think perhaps the exception is going to be Lazarus Planet, something of the gods, or the Shazam Wonder Woman one.
Yeah.
Because Wonder Woman 800 is coming up very quickly.
Yeah.
And so that story should end right before Wonder Woman 800. And it's my understanding that, well, I think it's already been said that Wonder Woman is ending and they're going to start a new volume. I don't know if it's going to end with 800, probably.
Yeah, I think that'll be her Dawn of DC. I think they announced a creative team not that long ago. I don't think I even recognized who they were, but
so and that storyline that they're doing with Diana, I think is something that they have never done with the character of Wonder Woman before.
Yeah.
So it kind of intrigued me.
Okay.
So, yeah. Do you remember reading about what it's going to be?
No.
She's an outlaw.
Okay.
The official peoples of planet Earth are hunting her.
Wow.
And I imagine that may be something that occurs in that Shazam Wonder Woman Lazarus book to set that up. So I'm like, Batman's been hunted, Superman's been hunted, Green Arrow's, but Green Lantern, they've not done that with Wonder Woman yet. So, and I think simultaneously,
Tom King is writing the new Wonder Woman.
Right.
Well, then I'm there.
I think simultaneously, she is also shunned by all the other Amazons. So she turns out to be on her own. She has nowhere to go. There's no haven for her.
Cool.
And I thought, well, okay, and let's see how Diana handles that.
Yeah.
So,
all
right, I'm bantered out.
All right. So today we're looking at Racketeer Terror in Gateston, which is the second story to appear in Superman #6. It was written by Jerry Siegel with art by Paul Cassaday. Superman #6 has a cover date of October 1940, an on sale date of July 10th, 1940, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics. And we also got our synopsis from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. So let me tell you what happened in this issue. Racketeer Brute Bashby has taken control of the small town of Gateston. Jim Terrell, editor of the local paper, is critical of Bashby and his unknown boss, which leads to Terrell's death in a car bombing. Lois and Clark arrive in town to investigate the racketeering. Additionally, the Gateston Gazette printing press is also bombed, stopping production of the paper. Clark contacts the publisher of the Daily Planet, who graciously agrees to replace the destroyed equipment. Bashby tries to stop the delivery, but Superman intervenes. Bashby steps up his threats on the town, but Lois learns that a local lawyer, Morton Twist, is Bashby's boss. They try to kill Lois with the car bomb as well, but Superman saves her. He forces the crooks into the rigged car and gains confessions from the fearful men, which ends the corruption in Gateston. something that I neglected to point out in the last 2 episodes, because I think it happened with the first time we saw it, may have been Action Comics 27, may have been Action Comics 28. But, well, first of all, we get a splash page in this story, which we haven't had yet, as far as I know.
Right.
But the last number of stories, instead of starting out with that text box that's like, the text box that's like, stronger than a freight train, blah, blah, blah. We actually get kind of a quick little, this is what's going to happen in the issue or the story. Like this one says, Racketeer Terror, grim, ruthless, descends upon peaceable Gateston. Beatings, bombings face businessmen who refuse to be intimidated by evil brute Bashby. Into the setup barges the foe of all injustice, Superman. And I feel bad that I hadn't noticed that when it first appeared and didn't mention it. But
yeah, that's all right. We're noticing so many other things,
right?
And we're used to seeing that elsewhere. So when it comes up, it doesn't seem to be new, although in this environment it is. But yeah, you've got the all-knowing narrator standing at his big mic going across the airwaves for the radio play we're about to listen to. Right, that's what that sounds like. Is the radio narrator setting things up in that voice that, so.
What'd you think of this one?
I enjoyed it. It was, we're trending recently back to the more, down to earth, yes. More, well, obviously mobster based Superman.
Yeah.
The Ultra Humanite is gone. He's come and gone. He was a Flash. It was not that Flash, but just
haven't seen Luthor in a while.
And no one else has been introduced.
Yeah.
Of anyone that we know of in his rogues gallery now, I'm sure there are characters that will appear here during the Golden Age that they don't use now. But I'm reading. I'm up to the early 70s of detective strips for Batman. And we've seen Joker, we've seen Two-Face, we've seen Penguin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on.
Yeah. The thing with Superman, though, is, a lot of folks that we kind of take for granted as, characters from the Superman universe that just have always been there didn't come from the comics. I was thinking about this today as I was reading one of these stories when the editor, Taylor or whatever his name is, of the Daily Planet sends Lois and Clark off on on an assignment. And I started wondering, I wonder when we're going to see Perry White. And then it kind of dawned on me that I'm, at the same time I'm listening to Superman Radio Revisited. I don't think that's the title of the podcast. But it's the old Superman radio shows. And a lot of those, I think wherever he's at right now, it's about this time. It's in 1940. And Perry White's all over those episodes. So he obviously came from the radio show. Right. Jimmy Olsen technically originally comes from the radio show. And it's so, yeah, this is pedestrian. But we get another panel that I'd love to see somebody argue that Superman's not flying in that panel.
A quick lookup says that there is a Superman Radio Revisited podcast, but I know that there are 2 that do that, and I don't know enough to be able to separate them. So that could be the name of the one that you're thinking of. If not, you only missed it by 1, because I think there's only 2 shows out there like that.
Yeah.
So, okay. Let me quit my Google foo and. You're way in here because Superman doesn't appear for a little while, but here is it the panel right after he's changed in the alleyway. But first, I have a little house cleaning to do in preparation. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That. I mean, you can't necessarily tell that he's not. The perspective that the panel is drawn in definitely lends itself to he's leapt, and I don't know. He could just be jumping, and we just see
But you
or
combine it with that narration,
yeah,
zooming through
springing
the
to the
sky like a rocket.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, yeah, no, down here now where he's in the mountains.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Oh,
the one. The one in
yeah.
the corner.
Okay.
Yep.
It's like what? So he is falling in that
Yeah.
kind of posture. He's just. Oh, come on,
Yeah.
people.
He's flying. He's zooming through the sky like a rocket, and he sights the objective of his search. If he's just jumping and he go, oh, there they are. He's going to keep jumping. He's not going to just suddenly stop and drop.
Right. Yeah. He's going to keep going if that's what he's. It's yeah.
He'd be like, oh shit. I gotta remember this. Jump back over here.
Yeah. It's and these past 2 or 3 strips, it's just getting to the point where the artist and there have been different artists, they want to draw him flying.
Exactly. Yes.
It's and you can tell nobody is saying anything, so if you don't say, we'll change it to where he is flying, and if we don't say anything, nobody will ever know that it changed.
Yeah, I feel if all these creators were still alive today, I guarantee you they'd be like, oh yeah, he's flying. That was our intention.
Okay, so
froze up on me again.
Really? You froze for me?
Yeah.
Cool. Everything working now?
Yeah.
So this also reminded me, and I apologize. So many times I bring things up, movie, TV, songs, and I can't remember the title. The brain cells don't work as well as they used to. But this a story about a bunch of ne'er-do-wells who move into town to take over the bad guy trade in the town. Whether they have to kick out the current bad guys or it's some kind of idyllic town that they are the first bad guys there.
Yeah. This will be an easy place to take over. Yeah.
Right. Very much reminds me of a movie with Bruce Willis, who unfortunately we will never see act again.
I know.
And
that's sad.
That's just very sad.
Yeah.
Where he is part of like the, I don't know, Italian mob, and there are members of the Jewish mob that's already in this town, and he starts playing them again. He sets himself up to be a member of both, and then starts playing the two sides against each other. And it's this, I think the setting is like a 20s, 30s kind of, mobster kind of setting. Really fun movie to watch.
Yeah, I know exactly the movie you're talking about.
Okay.
I have no idea what it's called, and I don't know that I've ever watched it, to be honest with you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's really good. Really good. And I don't know why, because that's not necessarily the story here.
Yeah.
But just this
gangsters in a small town. Yeah.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
The town is not really the setting.
Right.
The mobsters and what they're doing is the setting, and so they move in and they take over all the badness. Now here, after the first couple pages, did you know who the leader of the bad guys was going to be?
Had no clue. This, I'll tell you what, this story didn't really do anything for me at all.
Okay.
And because of that, I don't know that I paid a lot of attention. I remember when they finally revealed who the bad guy, the boss was, I was like, I don't even know who that is.
Oh,
did he show up in the story at some point before this? And I had to kind of look back and I said, oh, okay. I mean, this,
he was
as much as, as much as that last World's Fair comic was kind of, this one just did not do anything for me in any. There was a couple of moments I thought were kind of funny, but really it just didn't move me in any way.
That that may be the first time that we have rather varying thoughts on the story, because I did enjoy this. I liked seeing the mob move in. I liked seeing them destroy the paper so the paper couldn't work against him. Superman makes a quick call to his editor, and the editor's like, "Oh, I won't
Yeah.
just do that. I'll do this to help." And
Yeah, that was cool.
So, um, let's see. There was a face shove. Did you catch the
Yes,
face shove?
yes, there
I
was.
know
I
you're a
did see
fan of the
that.
face shove.
Yep,
Yeah. Okay.
yep.
And
And
that's the
we get another Clark pinching the nerve on Lois's neck, so she
right.
passes out and can't see him acting as Superman. Which, so that's happened at least twice now, possibly 3 times. All I could think of when that happened again is like, because when he, it's actually a pretty awesome scene. As soon as she's unconscious, because there's a car following them, and the car, he just knows that they're going to try to run them off the bridge. He waits until the car is alongside them. He opens up his door as he's driving and just kicks the car off the bridge. That was pretty awesome. But when Lois then finally wakes up, she's like, "Oh, what happened?" All I could think of was, Lois, at some point, are you going to start to question why you seem to black out a lot around Clark? And maybe that's
These
something you
odd
need to
things.
concern yourself about.
Yep.
What's he doing while you're blacked out? But that was pretty awesome. Him kicking that car off the bridge.
This story, I thought Superman was a little bit more nonchalant about what happens to other people than
Yeah.
he has been in other stories. Because here, like you said, he kicks this car off the bridge that those men probably died, however many men are in that car.
Yep.
There's the car in the scene where he is flying through the mountains that goes over the edge, and there are 2 vehicles,
Yep.
and he can only save one, and the one that he doesn't save is another group of bad guys that you actually see the car in flames in that one. I mean, what happened to the car there.
Yep.
So yeah, I noticed. I thought that maybe Soups was a little, he has said really aggressive things before, but maybe not necessarily as physically aggressive. Although here it is the opposite. He could conceivably do something, but chooses not to.
Yeah.
As far as saving these men. Here is another story where he gets shot at by someone. So all 3 stories he's been shot at.
Yeah. It's starting to become a thing.
And Lois also does a bit of trespassing in this one.
Yes.
Again, so I'm starting to notice that there are certain things that keep happening more and more frequently. So I don't know, lack of imagination, or it's the extent of what they feel they can do with the characters, or what.
Yeah.
But there are those same things that, I mean, Superman, if you are thinking he's invulnerable, there are a myriad of ways that you can show that.
Yeah.
Guns with bullets bouncing off his chest. Yeah, once or twice, but then you're like, oh, look, he pulled a gun. I mean, you know where it's going to go,
That's all. It's like that's always been something that has been associated with Superman for the longest time. You see it in the it's like whenever you see any kind of clips from the old George Reeves show, they're shooting at him and it's bouncing off his chest. The old joke was and the old joke was always on that show, the gunman would shoot at him, the bullets would bounce off his chest, he'd run out of bullets, throw the gun at Superman, and he'd duck out of the way. Which is always funny. But and then it's like we're getting to the point where it's like, all right, so we know somebody's probably going to shoot at Superman and the bullets are going to bounce off his chest in this issue, and Lois is probably going to get herself into some trouble that he'll have to get her out of.
Right. And let's go ahead and add, he's going to carry underarm some bad guy.
Yes. Yeah.
That starts to seems to be happening more and more frequently now as well. So yeah, we're starting to get tropey now in the Superman stories. The same, you have a list of 10 possibles, and every story has like 3 or 4 off of that list.
Yeah, and the one thing you can say about Lois, despite the fact that she is pretty much playing the part of the damsel in distress, that's her role in many of these stories. She's there so Superman can have somebody to save. It's not that she's just like minding her own business. and stuff happens that, you know, somebody kidnaps her or something. It's
Right.
she's getting into these situations because she's purposely putting herself into these
Yeah,
situations.
she
She's
is the
tracking down
cause.
stories. Yeah, she's trying to track down a story. She's trying to solve a crime. You know, I mean, the jewel, the heist thing where she's, you know, accused of murdering that guy. Yeah, there was no reason for her to go into that house, but
No,
most of the
not
time
at
it's
all.
because she is trying to track down, you know, the criminal. She's putting herself in the investigation. So
Right.
she's got that going for her as far as the
Uh,
strength of a female character. You know, it's not perfect, but
okay, but come on, you know that after, I don't know, a very few number of incidents, she would probably curb that somewhat.
hey, you'd think so. You think
You know,
it's like
at some point, but here
every
it's like
time
no.
I do this, I get tied up
Uh,
and Superman has to
but,
save me. Is
but
this the one of these three stories that we've talked about, whether episode 48, 49, or 50? There's a moment where she actually says to Superman, you know, for somebody who claims that they don't have feelings for me, you always seem to be there to rescue me.
yeah,
And
I don't think it was this one, but yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and he's basically like, well, I'm just doing what I would do for anybody, Lois. You know,
Um, let's see. Yeah, no, it's not in this one when he finally rescues her. But yeah, I remember that scene. It's like, maybe she's putting. No, she's not putting anything
yeah,
together.
no.
It's yeah.
Oh no, not in any way.
I did enjoy the scene where he knew that her car was booby trapped, and he got the bad guys to drive the car. Well, that didn't set off the bomb. And then he got the guys to do something. Well, that didn't set off the bomb. Well, let's stop here and you put on your emergency brake. And they were immediately, oh no, we can't do
No,
that.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
okay, that's the one that triggers the bomb.
And when
And
he tells them start the car, and the one guy says no, I thought he choked the guy to death. He reaches out and
really,
grabs him by the throat,
and
and they put that big red like
well,
action thing going on. I
the
just
angle of his head to his
yeah,
body too. It's like,
looks like
oh,
he just
his
snapped his
neck's
neck.
broke. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he just went okay, snap. You know, that
Yep.
did kind of for a moment. You know, it's like for a lot of the story, it's like I just really wasn't into it, and that stood out. It's like, whoa, what the frick just happened? He just broke some guy's neck.
He killed somebody.
Yeah.
Doug is telling us Last Man Standing is the Bruce
Ah,
Willis
that's right.
movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it, Doug. That's exactly
Last
the
Man
movie.
Standing. Yeah. I'll have
And
to check that out. Knowing that we're never going to see anything new from Bruce Willis again, I feel like I
ev-
should go check that out.
everybody out there owes it to themselves to watch 5 Bruce Willis movies. Just pick
Yes.
5 and watch them. Very few of the movies that he's in are just out and out stinkers. Now, depending on what it's about, it may not appeal to you, and that's cool. But keep in mind, the dude is alive, but he will never make
Yeah.
another movie because of some physical issues that he's run into. Well, more than physical, but he physically won't be able to make any more movies, and that's just like
Sad.
anytime anybody forcefully is taken away from doing what they love, that's just
Yep.
bad. It's
Yeah.
just it's not fair. So many people don't have they can't avail themselves of doing ultimately what they want to do, what they love to do. And so anytime those folks have it taken away, I think that's terrible.
Yeah.
So, but
The
yeah, Bruce Willis, good
the
actor.
movie, the Bruce Willis movie, I would recommend to everybody. It's the one that I think a lot of people point at and go, that's not a good Bruce Willis movie. That's Hudson Hawk. I
Okay, yes,
thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I
very
loved that
early
movie. It's
Bruce
been a
Willis
long
movie.
time since I've seen it, but this
Yeah.
the one scene alone where he's one of his first, heist break-in scenes in the movie. He's in a museum or something. He has to go get
Mhm.
something, and he's got his partner on the radio that's helping him through. And he's like, "All right, the alarm or something will be down for 2 minutes and 32 seconds." And he knows the length of time of every song practically in the world, and so he doesn't use a timer. He knows that there's a song that's that length of time, so he sings it while he's doing the heist. And it's just one of my favorite moments in a movie ever. Never seen something like that before. It was great.
That's the thing that sets that character apart, is that's how he. Yeah. All right. That is all for your Bruce Willis moment. Yes. Oh man, that wouldn't be a bad podcast to do. Bruce Willis movies a minute at a time.
Doug agrees with me once again.
There you go.
I think Doug and I are the same person.
Simpatico.
I think I'm online. I'm sending these comments.
You could be typing this. I don't know.
Right.
I'm sitting here looking right at you. I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
So it's So I mean that's basically everything I pulled out of this. It's a lot of very familiar things at this point. And, I don't know, maybe moving forward for the next little bit, it will, that will be the pattern, is these things that we have pointed out will keep occurring. So be it. I understand why. I still am interested in the history, even if it is the same thing I've read multiple times from Superman. I know that these things I'm reading are what led to the Superman 1 and 2 that we talked about for Dawn of DC, or the adventures or Action Comics. And, so I'm okay with that.
The pattern that I've kind of noticed is we seem to get 3 or 4, whether it's a couple of issues of Action Comics in a row, or, a couple of stories in Superman, like the first 2, like that we'll get we'll get 2 boring issues of Action Comics and then 2 boring Superman stories in Superman. But then at some point we get like an Action Comics 27, the Wayward Home, the Wayward Boys Home. We get issues like where he the final Ultrahumanite issue, which was just bonkers, so that's kind of what, when I get to a story like this that just literally does nothing at all for me, I'm like, all right, well, we will eventually get to another crazy, bonkers, over the top story that's going to be a lot of fun. But
the excitement trough is okay, because there will be a peak. As well.
And even with a story like this that didn't do any, there's still stuff that I can point out, and like the scene where I thought he just broke a guy's neck. There's a moment here, I don't remember exactly what's going on, but he's holding 2 guys under his arms. They're facing up, so again, their backs are probably being broken as they're jumping. And then he does legitimately drop them from the sky, so I'm assuming they're dead. Because as he's leaping over, he's up high enough that it looks like he's above this practically the smokestacks of a factory or something, and one guy's going, "Let go," and he says, "Anything to oblige," and he just drops them both.
Was that in this story?
Yeah.
Where at? What else is going on?
It's the page before he tells Lois not to start the car.
Okay, so you're on in here.
It's the 4th panel.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, he's picked up the 2 thugs who were going to shoot Lois, and he's taking them. He rounds up all of the bad guys ultimately. Does here, let me rip this fence out over here and encircle all the bad guys trick. Which I we see that all the time now, but I think this is the first time Superman's done that. So that's pretty clever. Well, just fence you in.
And we do get directly after this story, we get another one of those Superman teaching you how to exercise so that you too can have super strength. So, which I don't know who the artist is on this, but the one panel of him swimming looks like it could have come out of the 70s, frankly.
It says, is that the right place? No. Lois Lane murderer. I'm looking for Racketeer. Super strength. Burnley.
Okay.
Burnley and Schuster with Burnley and Cassidy on inks. And then there's a note here. It says, art credits verified by Burnley to Craig Dillick. Superman insert at the top of the page by Joe Shuster and Paul Cassidy. Superman insert. Okay, the little circle, I guess, is what
Yeah,
they're talking about there.
him breaking the chain. Yeah,
And then the rest of it is, yeah, the very first panel there, that Superman, his face, it looks very different from any faces that we've seen.
makes sense though. There's Jack Burnley. You know,
Yep.
I said with that the World's Fair comic, as much as the story was kind of blah, the art was freaking great.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Jack Burnley. I think that was our first Jack Burnley. This other one that he did though, wasn't quite as good.
No, didn't. I don't know. Didn't take as much time with it, or wasn't given as much time, or you know, whatever. I don't know.
I don't have anything else to say about this one.
Okay. At this point in comic book production, let's say I don't know what the process necessarily was like as far as artists, lettering, coloring. You know, you hear all kinds of stories now. I don't know, was that the same then potentially, or we know that paper strips looked sketchier because they had to get those out faster.
Yep.
We know that. As far as, you know, not the accumulated strip comic books, but the actual originally created comic books. I don't know, you know, did they have 2 months lead time to draw that, or I'm not sure.
And even if they did, you know, because they're like Action Comics and Superman, they're multiple stories in one issue. Are the artists doing what a lot of the writers are doing, and they have 4 or 5 jobs going on at the same time? You know, they're doing art for 4 or 5 different books. So yeah, they could just be rushing through stuff and just have, you know,
churn it out and make the money. Yep. Except for whatever we say about how the methodology was, except for Jack Kirby, it didn't matter how much time he did or didn't have. He was a mule putting it out, and it all was wow. Yeah. I was talking about Jack Kirby here on another podcast I recently guested on, and
what's that?
It was one of Billy D's shows. I think it's going to be on his Bronze Age of Horror, although it wasn't a horror book. We talked about Jack Kirby drawing Eternals, the 70s 19 issue Eternals story. And we talked about some Thor books, but that was, I think, that was after Kirby'd been on there. So he'd already left Marvel and was at DC with the Thor books, but then when he came back, that was the Eternals. So I was just all over Kirby talking then, so I don't want to. I could, but okay, I don't really have anything else to add.
All right. Well, before I wrap it up, I'll give everybody just a little tease for episode 51, because when I was reading these stories today and I just kind of went, all right, this story's done. Let me just swipe and see what this next story looks like. I immediately cringed, where we may have a bit of a racist stereotypes in the next story. So that's something to look forward to. I haven't read it, so I don't know, but immediately, and maybe that says something about me, that the image I see just makes me go racism. But
we haven't
really run into that a lot
overtly very much. Now, if it's covert, it's I don't recognize it, but
I think
overtly it's
at the most we may have run into some very subtle what at the time would have been normal, but wouldn't pass today.
Right. Yeah. It was found out that that's not the case for everybody that's like that or whatever, like all Italians are in the mob or what.
Right. Right. Yeah. All right, folks, that was our show. I hope, despite the fact that I didn't like the issue too much, that we still entertained you, and I think we did.
Mhm.
I think we're just gosh darn entertaining fellas, frankly, and
I was entertained.
well, that's good, because that's really all that's all I need is to know that you are entertained, and then I'm
There you go.
happy.
As long as one of us is reasonable, it's good.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So until next week, folks. I'm Steven. That's Ed, and this was the Superman Super Show.
Ciao.
Later. All right. That was episode number 3 for the night. 50 freaking episodes, man. And the 50th episode had to be a story that I didn't care for too much.
Well,
and I don't honestly, I don't know if I just didn't like the story or if it was because, at one point today, I think it was literally just before I saw your message on Twitter that was like, are we recording tonight? Like practically before that, I was like, oh, it's Tuesday. I haven't read any of those stories yet. I need to do that today. So it may have just been that I was trying to get through the 3 stories quickly enough that I knew I still had to put show notes together.
Right.
I was working on editing this Conan podcast episode. So it may have just been by the 3rd story. I was just like, I don't want to think about it right now.
Think of it this way. If this was a low point, it only took you 50 episodes to get there.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like,
yeah.
Well, if 1 out of every 50 is a clunker, take that, man. That's,
Agreed. Yeah. Hopefully it'll be another 50 before.
Yep. Man, I'll read 5 current books and 4 of them I puke, and the 5th one I just have to put down. It's, so it's like, that's.
Oh yeah.
1 in 50 is not bad odds.
Yep. All right. Well, Doug, you're still with us. You have a good evening, sir.
Doug? I think Terry is no longer with us, and we know that Chris Parton, the big weenie, bugged out early.
What a big wiener. According to this, we got 2 people watching right now. So
okay,
but I don't know how
Terry might be still watching. I don't know.
I don't know how quickly that changes when somebody drops off or is added on. So
right.
we know that
15 minutes. This is
we know that when somebody is responding to something that we say in the comments, it can take up to 5 minutes before we see it. At least that's the way it feels. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead and end our live stream. So for those of you who are currently watching, thank you for hanging out with us tonight.
Thanks, folks.
As always, it was a lot of fun. And Ed and I will talk a bit here once the live stream is over, and we'll talk about when we're going to do this again.
Night, Doug.
Good night, Doug.
Thank you, sir.
And